Greetings, everyone, and thank you for joining me for my session here at the Net Core Conference 2021 Virtual Edition. Of course, we'd rather be together in person, but this is the next best thing. My session tonight is about the 3 C's of Microsoft Teams, and hopefully we can break down Teams into the 3 core functionalities and help you to understand how it may work better for you. I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. I've been speaking around the country for about 3 years now, and I can tell you these events do not happen without the help of our sponsors and their support. So be sure to visit them, check out what they have to share with you, and show them some love and support. So who am I? I'm Shari Oswald. They call me Shortcut Shari, and I'm the Chief Experience Officer for a company called Power Up Learning. I might be a Microsoft Certified Trainer and a Microsoft Office Specialist Master, but one of the beautiful things about what I do is I'm always learning. The technology is evolving every single day, and in fact, this week I learned something new from one of my participants, which is really cool. If you want to reach out to me, feel free to do so. They call me Shortcut Shari, and it kind of stuck. So if you're looking for me on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook, I also have a blog, a YouTube channel, and an email. Feel free to reach out on any of these channels, and I'm happy to connect with you. I'm also an instructor for LinkedIn Learning, so if you would like to have a free trial of LinkedIn Learning, you might want to jot down that URL there, and you can get, I believe it's up to 90 days free. All right, let's dive into the 3 C's of Microsoft Teams. We break down Teams into 3 core capabilities: communication, collaboration, and creating content. When we talk about communicating in Teams, this is probably the functionality most people pick up quickly. Calling, chatting, and even the posts. These are 3 ways that we can communicate in Teams. We also have collaboration, which includes documentation where we can do co-authoring or share documents, task management through many different applications, or data and reporting. These are just some examples of the ways that you can collaborate in Teams. And then we have creating content, such as documents, presentations, but also other applications within Office 365, like forms and surveys. Of course, these aren't all of the tools. I'm just trying to give you some ideas of how you might communicate, collaborate, or create content together. So who do we actually communicate, collaborate, and create content with in Microsoft Teams? I believe we have 3 specific audiences: individuals, groups, and teams. Individuals are peer-to-peer or one-on-one communication. When I think of groups, I think of more informal groups within your organization, 2 or 3 people, maybe 5 or 6 people that you work together with. And then you have the teams, the actual more formal groups that have been established within your organization. This could be a project team, it could be a cross-functional team, it could be an event that you're working on, whatever it is that group effort is focused on. Let's dive right into Microsoft Teams. I'd like to start out with talking about the informal communication and collaboration that we have with people within our organization. When you're first working in Teams, it's pretty obvious on the left-hand side. There's some easy tools to use, including the chat or the call function. Let's select the chat function. Most of us have used some sort of technology to communicate with other people. And therefore, chat's really not a big jump for most people. If I wanted to talk to Alex, for example, I might send him a message here. And now we've started a communication. If for some reason the chat's just not cutting it, in the upper right-hand corner, I could convert this to a call or to a video call at any time. Now keep in mind, I'm in a demo environment that doesn't have a camera, so the video call is grayed out up there. So this is a one-on-one chat or communication with another person in my organization. Occasionally, you might need to have a larger group of people to communicate with each other that's not necessarily a formal team. This is where we can create a group chat. And a group chat is created when you invite more than one person into a chat. I'm going to create a new chat, and let's say I'm going to invite Alex and Deborah and Nestor. And let's greet them. This is now a group chat or group conversation that we're having. In the navigation pane on the left-hand side, you will see a list of the people that are working together. When I think of a one-on-one chat like with Alex, if we were to do that in person, I would probably go over to his desk and have a conversation with him. But if we had a larger group of people, we can't all gather around the desk. So I might want to go commandeer a conference room. I don't get to keep that conference room. It's just something we're borrowing for right now, something that we're going to work on. That's where I think of these informal groups. A group of people that you would take into a conference room and have a conversation. Now, if we have a need to collaborate with those people, then we might want to add files to that. So notice in my chat with Alex, I have a file tab. Here is a file that I've shared with him previously. We've worked together on this file. If I need to add another one, I could click the Share option here, or from the chat, attach it to the message. Let's say, for example, we have a candidate for a job, and I want to send him a resume for him to look at. I have a couple of options. I can either share it from my OneDrive if it lives there, or upload it from my computer or a network drive. So from my documents on my computer, I have a resume. I'm going to open it and add it to the chat. That file is now in our conversation history. It's also included in the File tab. Sometimes it takes a second for that to show up there. So now I can communicate with him. I can also collaborate on that document. We can open it and look at it together. The same thing with our group chat. If we needed to review resumes as a group, I don't need to create a big formal team for that that's going to live on forever, because when you create a Microsoft team, you create a lot of things behind the scenes. You create an email address, you create a SharePoint site, Active Directory accounts, and a bunch of other stuff. I don't want to get into the technical part of it with you. But sometimes that's overkill. We just have a group of people that need to review some resumes for a candidate, for example. So I might want to upload those here. So the files, I'm going to click Share, and I'm going to upload them. And now as a group, we can review these. It's telling me we already have this file, so I'm going to replace it with this new one. And that will now be included. So let's talk a little bit about the files. Probably the most common question that I get when I'm working with people in Office 365 is what files go in OneDrive, what files go in SharePoint, and what files go in Teams. Well, let's take one of those off the table because, spoiler alert, nothing actually lives in Teams. OneDrive and SharePoint are the only document storage options you have in Office 365 or Microsoft 365. So let's talk about the difference. When I think of OneDrive, I think of that file cabinet that sits underneath my desk if I still had physical files in a paper world. I have the key to it. I decide what goes in there, I decide how it's organized, and I decide who I share it with. So OneDrive are those personal work documents that you control. Now there might be projects that I'm working on temporarily that eventually don't belong to me. If I were to transfer my job or leave my job and I wouldn't put that information in a box and take it with me, that content probably belongs to the job that I'm doing or the department that I'm working in. So OneDrive is not meant to be a long-term storage for documents that belong to a larger group of people or formal documentation within your organization. On the other hand, we have SharePoint. SharePoint is that document storage that's kind of the file cabinet that's out in the hallway. Everybody within a department or a specific function or a project that you're working on should have access to that content, whether you are there or not. If you win the lottery and run away, that documentation belongs with your organization, and it shouldn't be in your OneDrive. So SharePoint is that shared document storage that certain people have access to, and certain people control who has access to it. How does that work in Teams? Back in Microsoft Teams, I had a need to collaborate with Alex on a couple of documents, so I shared it with him in the chat. Those files, when I uploaded them, remember I had the option to either share it from OneDrive or upload from my computer. If you share a file from OneDrive, this is an existing file that you have access to. And then click Share. Be sure to click the Send button. I'm really good at forgetting to do that. All right, so I just shared a document with Alex. We're going to collaborate on this document. But what did that do? When you are working in chat, your files come from OneDrive. So let's go look at OneDrive. When you share a file from OneDrive, that's the equivalent of unlocking your drawer, taking out a file, and sharing it with someone else. All of these files that indicate that they are shared have been shared with a specific person or a group of people within my organization. Now scrolling through, I can recognize a couple of the files that I've shared with him, but scrolling down, I know I shared that resume with him as well, but I don't see that file. If you upload a file directly into OneDrive from your computer or a network drive, it creates a folder and places those files in the folder called Microsoft Teams Chat Files and assigns the permissions. So if I click the shared link, I can see that that file has been shared with a group of people. Remember my group chat of Nestor, Deborah, and Alex. When I shared the file in the chat, it gave them access and permission to edit that document. Now here is one of those things that I think most people miss when they are sharing their files in the chat. Going back to Teams, I can't remove this document from the chat. I can't change the permissions, and I can't take it away from them. I can't make it read-only from Teams. But remember, this file doesn't live in Teams. It lives in OneDrive. So from OneDrive, I can revoke or change their permission. I can say they can only view that document. Or I can completely take their permission away and stop sharing it with them. It doesn't take it out of the chat in Teams, but it does remove their permission. If they were to try and access that file in the future, it would let them know they don't have access to that file anymore. So I want you to write this down. Files that you share in chat come from OneDrive, and they're controlled from OneDrive, whether it's a one-on-one or a group chat, either one. Okay, so we talked about communicating, we talked about collaborating, but how about creating content with each other? Now that content could be these documents, but also at the top we have a little plus sign where we can add a tab and access any of the additional applications that are available in Office 365. If I had a OneNote notebook that I wanted to share with Alex, I could create one or give access to one here. If I had a PowerPoint presentation that I was working on with him, I might want to put that on a tab so he could see it, or an Excel spreadsheet that had some data. I'm in a demo environment that has a lot of other toys in the toy box, and so don't get too attached to those in the demo. There are a lot more tools, but if your organization has given you access to them, if maybe, let's say we're working on something creative and we use Adobe, I could use the Adobe add-in. So feel free to build out the workspace for you and Alex using the tools that you have available to you, including the other ones that are in Office 365 and beyond. The same thing with the group chat. Again, content or collaboration could be happening with documents, or click the plus and build out a workspace. Again, this is your little private conference room for your group of people. One other little tip that I'd like to give you, if you have a group chat, you might want to use this little edit option and give it a real name. If you have a specific project that you're working on or a topic, you might want to go back and search for that chat group later. So by giving it a name that you can search for, you can change the group name here and make it easier to find. Let's say this is the fall recruiting. Now the group isn't just a list of names, it has a title. And if for some reason I needed to go back and find it later, I can find it in my group chats. One of my favorite tips. All right, so what if it's more than just me and another person, or a small group of people that need to work together? Now we're going to move on to the formal groups in Microsoft Teams. When it's time to decide to take this to a more formal group, there's 3 things you need to consider when you're creating a Microsoft team. Who needs to work together? What are they working on, or what are their areas of focus? And how are they going to get that work done? The who, the what, and the how of teams. In our fictitious organization here called Contoso, we have some teams already established. We have a project team for the Mark 8 project. We have a sales and marketing team, we have a retail team, and we have an employee engagement team. And my buddy Megan here is a part of all of these teams. How did they decide to grow up from being a group chat to being a team? Let's imagine that we're doing a fall recruiting campaign. It's not just one group of people, it's a larger group of people. And there might be people from different departments that need to work together. This is when you decide, yes, this needs to be a team. The who is who needs to work together. So we're going to create that recruiting team. Join a create a team, and I'm going to create one from scratch and make it private. And I'm going to call this fall recruiting. When you're naming your teams, be very careful. If you use a very long team name, remember this creates a SharePoint site and an email address, as well as other remnants within Office 365. And that long team name can always be changed to something that's more intuitive. But this is where sometimes those acronyms are our friend. I'm just going to leave this as fall recruiting. I just want to make sure that you consider that. And always put in a description. When you put a description in, that makes the team findable for those that have permission to find it. And then click Create. We've identified the group of people that need to work together. And now we're going to start adding the members. So we have Nestor and Deborah and Alex. And let's say we add in Joni and Pradeep. This is the who. Now we need to decide the what. What are they working on? The fall recruiting team appears at the bottom of the pane, so I'm going to drag it to the top because this is where I'm working the most right at this particular time. So now we need to build out our channels. We always get the general channel, which anything that anybody would need to have access to or be informed upon would appear here. But we have different areas of focus, and some of the people that are working in the recruiting campaign may be across different areas for different departments. So let's create those different areas of focus. This is the what they're working on. What are they hiring for? I'm going to add a channel for HR. And just for expediency, I'm not going to add a description, but always add the description. I might add a channel for engineering. And sales. and marketing. These channels are fairly open, but sometimes we need to have a private group within this group that can only see specific things. Let's say we're also hiring some executives. I don't want to have executive level resumes or their salaries out there for everyone to see. You might want to create a private channel for that. And this time, instead of accepting the standard option, we're going to change this to a private channel. And who within the group can see the information that's in the private channel? Let's say Nestor and Alex. So there we have it. We've decided who needs to work together, what are they working on, or what are their areas of focus, and now let's explore how they're going to get that work done. When you're getting the work done, that's the communicating, the collaborating, and the creating content with each other. The communication happens in multiple ways in a team. The first one is the posts. So if you wanted to add a new conversation, add a post here. And everyone that's a part of the team would see that announcement, and they could reply or respond to it if they wanted to. You can also communicate by meetings. In the upper right-hand corner, we can either schedule a meeting or meet now, and it would create an on-the-fly meeting for us or put one on the calendar. This is the equivalent of a group chat or a meeting or call. That can be a video call or an audio call, either one. So there's the communication piece within a team. The collaboration piece happens with the files. Previously, we had just a small group of people, but maybe now we want to add a bunch of resumes for people to work on. And I'm going to add them in this specific channel. The engineering resumes are going to go in the engineering channel. The marketing resumes are going to go in the marketing channel. I can create a new one or upload the ones that I already have. The files that I have are here. So I have 2 engineering resumes, and I'm going to upload them to the engineering channel. And I have a marketing resume that I'll add to the marketing channel. So each channel gets their own set of documents that they can work on. Now that we've uploaded it, where does that content live? Remember, I told you, nothing actually lives in Teams. So write this down. When you share a file in chat, it shares from OneDrive. When you share a file in Teams, it actually is stored in the SharePoint site that's behind the scenes. And you can access that by clicking the ellipsis. If you don't see the option for Open in SharePoint, it'll be in the More Options button. And here is the SharePoint site where that documentation is being stored and managed. If I click the documents, you'll notice we have the names of all of the channels. When you create a team, it creates a SharePoint site. And when you create a channel in a team, it creates a folder in the documents library for each of those channels. If I go into engineering, I'm going to see the 2 resumes that I just uploaded. And if I go into marketing, there's the resume I uploaded there. So this is how we collaborate on documentation or share content with each other within Teams. It actually lives in SharePoint. I'm going to tie those things together as well, because just because we shared a file in Teams does not mean we want everyone to be able to edit it. If you go into the More Options button, you'll see there's no option to make this read-only. There's no option to take away people's permission to see it. You can't manage that from Teams. However, you can in SharePoint. SharePoint has all of the capabilities for document management, including version history and checking documents in and checking them out. doing workflows or approvals if you need those. Look at all the options that you have on the SharePoint site. So if you feel like Teams falls short in the document management piece, look a little bit deeper and go into the SharePoint library, because that's where all the magic happens. Okay, so we have communication, we have collaboration and content, and we also have the option to add additional tabs. If we had tasks that we need to manage together, we could add a planner board. So this planner board is a way that we can create content together. Let's say these are the candidates. I'm going to create a new plan called Candidates. And in that planner board, maybe I have buckets for each of the candidates that we're reviewing, like engineering, and one for marketing. And I add a task for each of the candidates that we are interviewing. Just some ideas there. You can create a notebook. And have them add notes. Here's the fall recruiting notebook, and click Save and put that on a tab. Everybody's sharing their notes. So the tabs across the top are how are they going to get their work done? What tools are we going to give them from the toolbox that let them complete the tasks that they have at hand? So the teams are the who, the channels are the what, the tabs across the top are the how. In other words, communicating, collaborating, and creating content together. So let's wrap things up this way. When you're working in teams and you need to have a formal team, who needs to work together? What are they working on? And how are they going to get that work done? And the work that they're getting done comes down to communication, collaboration, and creating content. If I can't give you anything else today, hopefully this was the epiphany. When you share a file in chat, it shares it from OneDrive. When you share a file in a channel of a team, that content lives in SharePoint. Again, just a quick thank you to our sponsors for making this event possible. And I'll leave you with my slide here of how to get in touch with me. Remember, I am happy to connect with you on any of the social media platforms that you're comfortable with. And as always, I'm Shortcut Shari, and it's my job to make your job easier. Be safe, be well, and thank you for joining me today.